While we're on the topic of your book, when I was reading it, I noticed that there was this whole section about how labeling a mental health issue, for example, when you say, I have anxiety, I have depression, I have PTSD, that's actually harmful. As a neuroscientist, what do you mean by that?
Oh, wow. I'm so glad you asked this question. The last 40 years, we've had the biomedical model, and the biomedical model basically has taken our experiences as humans and put them into a diagnosis and a label and a treatment. Now, that works brilliantly if you have diabetes or cardiovascular heart issues or anything like that. That model is medical. It's a good model. But the mind doesn't work like that because the mind isn't driven by the brain. So that model is based on the fact that your brain is it and your brain produces mind. Your brain produces nothing. Your brain is a responder. It's a host. And it just does what the mind tells it to do. And if your mind keeps feeding it all the stuff like we've been describing, eventually over time, cumulatively, your body and mind break down. So you become vulnerable to disease. And the research shows that 95% of lifestyle diseases come from our thought life. 95%. So that's established scientific fact. The labels of PTSD, schizophrenia, anxiety, depression, seem as though they're the same as something like diabetes, but they're not. They're not at all. The word anxiety and depression, those are not things. Those are emotional warning signals.
They're telling you that you're out of alignment with how you should be feeling.
And you need to pay attention, yes, otherwise it's going to get worse. So if you put your hand on the stove and it's burning, you can take all the ibuprofen in the world that you want and painkillers, but until you remove your hand from the stove, you're still going to it's going to burn a hole through your hand. So what we're doing is toxic positivity, labeling, medicating. That's just trying to deal with the symptoms. What we have to do is embrace all the scariness, sadness, darkness of life, and you use that to learn and to grow. That's essentially what we need to do. So labeling locks you in because PTSD is not an it, it's a behavior. Depression and anxiety are not an it, they're emotional warning signals. PTSD is a behavioral warning signal.
What does that mean? It's not an it?
Okay,
it's a signal.
So it's not a fixed thing. So when you label something like diabetes, it's something wrong with your pancreas. There's insulin, it doesn't produce enough insulin. They can do a test and they can target a medication. When it comes to PTSD, it's not the same thing. It's not something that you can target specifically with a medication. PTSD is a big word for a bunch of reactions that we have to adverse circumstances. You can't just take that hugeness, stick it in a label and say, oh, your brain is broken here, let's fix it here. It's not about your brain.
What is it about?
It's about your mind. It's about the experience. So it's about the experience that you've had. So adverse response to adverse experience is very normal. Yes.
And it makes you healthy. So how do you want us to think about trauma, anxiety, and depression?
I want you to think about them as simply how you're showing up, as words, descriptions, as opposed to diseases of the brain. They will impact your brain. We've heard that whole story already from the beginning, how whatever goes in the mind then goes in the brain and the body, and because our brain and our body are not wired for that, the network's not wired for that, it creates a disruption in telomeres and cells and all that breaks down and we get vulnerable to disease. So there's an impact, but it's not the cause. So the brain's not the cause, life is the cause. Because you aren't depression, you are feeling depressed because of. You aren't PTSD, you're experiencing PTSD symptoms because of. So we need to find the because